everybody, and welcome to The Reading Room, the podcast from your Rowan County Public Library. I'm Morgan.
I'm Megan.
And I'm Emery.
And we are your hosts for this week's episode of The Reading Room, where a lot of things have been happening. Programming is coming back. We mentioned that last time, I think, and we wanted to go over that again, but also I'm really excited because this is going to be the first instance of us bringing you a new segment. I guess every segment is new at this point. This is the second one, so we didn't do anything yet. But we promised you that we would be bringing you the Bad Book Club, and I kind of just want to launch straight into that.
I would like to state before we begin that this week we could consider it Bad Short Story Club.
Yeah, it's not a whole book. It's from a book.
It's from a book.
Yeah. It is from a book. So I believe that we gave the title. That was Trucks by Stephen King.
Which also has a movie adaptation called Maximum Overdrive. And it was the one and only Stephen King directed film. Because after that movie, he was like, yeah, I'm never doing this again.
And he has held to that until, I think very recently, there is that new miniseries of The Stand. And I am told that he directed like the final episode.
Oh, I didn't
but it
know
was
that.
just one episode of a show.
So he wasn't going to try to take on a whole movie again.
Right, yeah. I think probably they approached him about the adaptation, and he was like, no, y'all just read
You better not let me.
Just read the book. Just read the book. It's been out a long time, you guys. Please read the book. I don't want to do this.
It's been out as for the same amount of time that Phoenicians made the alphabet back in Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
Because Stephen King honestly looks like he's had one foot in the grave for like 700 years.
Well, he kind of has. Like, someone hit him with a truck, which might be why he wrote this story.
I think no. I think it was Dark Towers. I think there's like a character in Dark Towers that like hits the main character or something, and that was inspired by that event. I could be wrong. I do know that him getting hit with a car had some kind of influence on Dark Towers.
Like, I'm sure that because The Dark Tower is like one of his major long-running series, that it crept in there. I know that there was something. I would have to look it up. So, like, I'm not going to start quoting dates and things because I would just be, it's all supposition. I would be pulling it out of nowhere. The next thing that he wrote after that happened to him was it was like Cujo or something. And the reason that it's so wonky is because he was recovering from having been hit by a van. Like, he was just...
Let's see what happens if I write a book with a concussion.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, it's... And he wrote until the cast came off, or casts plural. And like, I'm so glad that he recovered, but also I think that even he probably looks back on that time and was like, this is not my best work because I don't remember writing it, so like I can't really claim it.
Well,
and I mean that would be terrifying. Imagine being a horror author. And you write things like The Dead Zone, which is about a guy who has, like, a part of his brain doesn't work, and it gives him superpowers. And then, like, you know, you're in a nasty accident or you have some major physical trauma or something. You have to live and deal with those kinds of things. On the one hand, I feel as though that would be awful because, you know, we all know someone who has to live with diabetes, who's had cancer, who lives with a stroke, something like that. And it really has a drastic effect on your life. But also... I mean, there's nothing like firsthand experience to draw horror from.
One of the keys to writing is purely self-inspiration. Like, stuff that has happened in your life, stuff that you experience on a daily basis, which... segueing going to be the first topic we're going to go over in Writer's Workshop whenever it comes back.
Awesome. Let's talk about that because we've been discussing programming, and I don't think that we had dates for everything for the first episode, but now we actually have some dates to give to people. So Writer's Workshop is going to be
the last Wednesday of September from 4:30 to 6:30.
Okay, and so that is September the 29th.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's going to continue, and it's going to be the last Wednesday of the month every month going forward.
Yeah, so be sure to mark your calendars. Back when I was first starting out with Writer's Workshop, I was just kind of like, I tried to do it the last Tuesday of every month, but it really was whenever the room was available, because I had like second priority status just because I was so late into the game. But now I have everything set up to where Writer's Workshop will forever and always be on the last Wednesday of every month at 4:30 through 6:30.
Yeah, this actually, in a way, you work with what you have. We all know that, and we've all been doing that for a long time. But this has kind of been a blessing in disguise, I think. As programming has been on hiatus, it's given us a chance to reevaluate some things, to figure out what you, our patrons, want from us, and what we're not really vibing with versus what everybody really is desperate to see more of, and just kind of clear our calendars and reschedule everything and do it at times that we hope are going to be convenient for you. So we've got Writer's Workshop on the last Wednesday, and I believe on the first Wednesday.
Yep, on that first Wednesday of every month, I have a Teen Anime Club going on from the same time, 4:30 to 6:30, where we're going to watch anime, do activities with it, tying into the anime, stuff like that. So the first one is also going to be the first Wednesday of September, which is the 3rd?
That's actually the first.
The 1st,
yep. September 1st.
And we're going to be doing My Hero Academia. I already have some posters ready. I have, the activity. We're going to be making manga collages, and I have a couple of examples. I can't really describe them on an audio format, but they're super cool, and I'll probably be putting them up somewhere in the teen area sometime soon, so that way you can see what we're going to be doing with that first activity.
And BNHA, or My Hero Academia, is really popular right now, has been for a while, and I mean, there are good reasons why. I believe that we have at least most of the series in our graphic novel collection.
Yeah, we definitely should. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know you know the collection better than just about anybody.
Yeah, I think that I have not read My Hero Academia. I haven't read a lot of anime. Spoiler.
You prefer Western graphic novels.
I typically am more into just graphic novels rather than anime, but I definitely I think that I had to fill in a lot of the ordering gap for My Hero. There were a lot of people that were reading it and addressing the fact that we had, I think, the beginning and the end of the series.
No, I think that we just had the first two.
Did we just have the beginning?
Because it's still ongoing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
no, but there have been a couple of others.
So we did have
too.
to, yeah.
Yeah, there's been more than one manga where a patron has come up and let us know, hey, you guys have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 of this,
right?
And oh goodness, and then it turns out to be lost or misplaced somewhere, or somehow maybe it was just a request, because that's happened too. I think a lot of people they'll place requests because they have their own collection at home. And maybe they have 1 through 6, and they just need to read 7, which is the newest one. And so they'll ask us for 7,
right.
And we just get it because that's what we do.
Don't know.
If y'all ask us for something, we get it, and then we find out later, oh, I should have checked.
But we're missing the rest of that 12-book series.
Yeah, oh no, we don't have 5, 6, and 8 through 12 or whatever. And so it just there you go. If you're using this as a walkthrough for your own library career, heaven help you. But also check when somebody makes a request, because if someone's asking for book 11 of something, if you don't have books 1 through 10, either interlibrary loan it instead of adding it to the catalog, or get books 1 through 11 all at the same time.
Odds are nobody else is checking out just book 11.
Exactly. Yeah. So that means you either want everyone to read the whole series, or you want to help that one patron who asks for it, the best way that you can, which, if they don't need books 1 through 10, might not be adding book 11 to the catalog. So that being said, we also have some other programs coming back as well. Technology classes, which folks have really been asking about a lot. are going to be coming back on the first Tuesday of September.
Ooh, competition.
Well, you have almost a week to prepare.
You're first, it's fine.
Yeah, you have almost a week to prepare because the first Tuesday of September is going to be September the 7th. It will also be from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Well, you said 4:30 to 6:30. I think technology classes are going to be from 4 to 6, and they will be in the conference room. These other programs are mostly going to be in the community room. And we also have on board our board and card game program is coming back, and that will be the last Tuesday of every month. So September the 28th will be our first instance of that. Most of our programming is coming back in September. That's when we've got, you said Writer's Workshop, Anime Club, on board and technology classes. Craft and Around, Jess is bringing that back for teens and adults.
Yay.
Our monthly crafting program, that's going to be the second Monday. So that means that September the 13th will be the first date for that. And that's a morning and afternoon program, so that will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Our movie night, which is geared at adult patrons, but I think that it's family friendly.
Yes.
It's specifically not children's movies, so we're not going to be watching a lot of Disney stuff. It's going to be stuff for all ages. That's going to be the third Thursday of every month. So that's coming back on September the 16th. Will be the first of those at 5:30 p.m.
So that means we probably bust out the popcorn popper.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff. Good. I have missed that boy so much.
I have too, because there is nothing like, something good's about to happen when you're in the office and you smell like the hot metal smell of it heating up, and then you start to smell the butter, and it's like, oh.
Absolutely.
Like every time I pass that machine, I'm like, one day you're gonna see use again, buddy. Just hang tight.
Yeah, just
hang tight.
Of course, there is like the sentimental aspect to that of like, usually when you smell the popcorn machine warming up and you smell the popcorn cooking, like, there's about to be some kind of program that's going to bring everybody together. And a lot of times in the past, it was our children's movie night that we held in the children's area. But also, I just really, spoiler alert for anyone who's never used a popcorn machine and doesn't know what these things look like. The popcorn kernels come in a packet with this sludge-like butter oil mixture, and that truly is the highlight of my life.
Like, if you want to see an example yourself, get like one of those microwave bags of popcorn. Don't microwave it, just bust open the bag. That's what we're working with.
And it is gooey, and it will leave your fingers oily for the rest of the night, and it truly just is the best part of my day anytime that I use that popcorn machine. So we're busting that bad boy back out for sure.
Yeah, well, because that's the experience, right? That movie theater experience where you have to you have one hand that you use for your drink and maybe to like hold your date's hand or grip the arm of the chair or whatever, and the other hand is the popcorn hand. Exclusively, because you can't touch anything else, or you will. The whole movie theater is now a slip and slide.
Right, and for a week afterward, your hand smells like that fake butter extract.
Exactly.
And it is heavenly.
It's like cutting onions, but like the good version.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like it stays with you, but I want it in my life.
Yeah.
And I always look forward to that. And I am not ashamed to say, and you shouldn't be either, that I go to movie nights honestly for the popcorn. So.
Oh, absolutely. I would patent that. Can we get a candle with that scent?
And speaking of kids programming, we have a lot of that coming back too, because I know that folks have been trapped inside. Kids have not been going to school regularly. Everyone's kind of getting stir crazy because the pandemic has caused a lot of us to realize that these routines that we have, we only spend a certain amount of time with each other. And so then you spend suddenly a lot more time with people at home, and you have to find ways to fill it. You have to find stuff to do with it. So we have parents who have been learning new skills. We have people who have been checking out books to learn new hobbies, things that they can do together or by themselves or with their kids, and or for their kids, or to give their kids something to do. So we're happy to bring back some children's programming as well, a lot of children's programming, to provide those options for people. because we have Toddler Time, which is kind of it's based off of an old program, but it is a new program that's coming back every Tuesday. So that's going to be every week. That is coming back in September, and that's going to be a morning program. So it'll be at about 10 a.m., 10 or 10:15, I think. Like, get here at 10, and I think it's going to officially start at a quarter after. But Jess has some great stuff planned for that, and I think you all have been involved around the edges or have given some suggestions and seen what she's doing, because she has like the sensory balance.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I was thinking of too. She and I definitely discussed the sensory aspects of that program, which is, I know, really big in pretty much every aspect of child care or child entertainment right now. So that's a very cool thing to look forward to.
She's really excited about it, and I know she and Sandy have done a lot of research. They put a lot of effort into this to try and make it a good program for small kids. So if you have little kids, like 2 to 4, and we also have some other stuff that's coming back in August. So as we phase things in, most of our adult programs, all of our adult programs, are not starting until September at the earliest. But in August, we've got Story Time coming back. I know folks are going to be excited for that. That is coming back August the 9th. And that is going to be...
that's my birthday. Nice.
Ooh, well, happy early birthday.
It'll be easy for you to remember. You want to come to Story Time, Meg?
Oh, it's in the morning shift. I don't come here in the mornings.
So let's see. I think did I get my dates right? Yeah, first Tuesday in September, that's the 7th. This is, August the 9th. And then the next one, of course, will be like the first Thursday of August, which is going to be, the first Thursday is the 5th. But since she's starting on the 9th, I'm assuming that means the next one's going to be on the 12th. And that's going to be at 4 p.m. for story times. So, bring your kids. You got 2 chances a week. And I'm hoping, I haven't gotten official word about this yet, but since we've started doing it, I am really hoping that we're going to continue at least some of the digital story times as well. But I don't yet know, I haven't heard Jess or Sandy say like what times those will be.
I haven't either. I'm not sure. I don't know that we have concrete word from anyone that those are going to continue on. But I definitely have loosely heard discussion that everyone involved in making those digital and online programs happen is definitely gung-ho to keep them going. So.
Good. And the best way that we know what to do for you, the public, for you, our patrons, is for you to let us know, especially in writing, like email us, comment on our YouTube, tweet at us, and comment on Facebook, definitely, or on Instagram, and even come into the front desk and let us know, give us a note, or just tell us so that we can report on it to the appropriate people and say, hey, we've been getting a lot of questions about kids' story time, or we've been getting a lot of questions about, crafting activities. And so we know that way that there is a demand for it. During the pandemic, when all of us were locked up, it's not over, but during the part of the pandemic in which we were all quarantining, we tried to go as digital as we could, and a lot of libraries did a really good job with that. Some folks just didn't have the resources. We did the best with what we could, I feel.
We tried.
We tried, and we were successful in some ways. These story times have been really popular, so now that we know we can do it, it's important that we keep doing it if it's needed, but you have to let us know that you need it. You have to engage with that, like those posts on Facebook, leave your comments, tell us that you want to see more, ask for specific stories, things like that. And that tells Sandy and Jess and the rest of us that you want to see more of that, and then we'll keep those programs going. Lego Club is coming back in August as well. That's going to be every 4th Saturday at 1 p.m. And the reason I'm giving specific dates, but I'm also giving weekdays and like monthly dates, because I'm looking at a calendar that I want to make sure that it's not wrong. Like if I have the wrong month pulled up, it's like, oh, because this is a digital calendar. Oh no, that's July the 12th is that. Oh, oops. So do double check me. But it is going to be the 4th Saturday. So for August.
Why does your calendar say that it's like 1968?
You got me. I actually double checked.
I'm like, oh, is this boy actually going to pause and look?
Well, I did, because I thought what you were going to comment on is that I also have the time in like Australia and Germany up as well. And it's like, well, I have friends who live in those places, and so I have to be respectful of, like, Australia's 14 years in the 14 years in the future.
Honestly, yes.
Honestly, well, I mean, they have healthcare, so but they're 14 hours in the future, and so it's like I don't want to send my friend a text, and for him it's like 3 a.m. and he's like, what, could this not have waited? Honestly, did you woke me up for this? A meme? Like, absolutely, yes, 100%.
First of all, I did.
Yeah, first of all, second of all, I checked to make sure it was 4 a.m. where you are, so that I knew I would be waking you up with this meme. So please enjoy. But the 4th of August here, or the 4th Saturday of August here, will be the 28th. So Lego Club is coming back at 1 p.m. in the afternoon over in the children's area. And we've got some other recurring programs in the works that we're not ready to share just yet, but we're looking into it. But we also have some one-off special events. The first one of those is going to be Superhero Training Camp.
Ooh, what's that?
I'm really excited because I don't want to go into too much detail because I want some of it to be a surprise. But I also want to build the hype.
You're going to reveal your secret identity, aren't you?
Oh.
You're actually Batman.
Well, we don't need to have this program anymore.
I'm Batman. Where are they? No, I don't have the time or energy to be Batman. I have the sense of social responsibility, but I was not born to the same level of privilege that enables me to just like hair off and learn ninjutsu in a foreign country for 12 years and then come back and buy a tank.
That's what he wants us to think.
Well, obviously, I mean, the best disguise is just, to be right out in front, right? So, Superhero Training Camp, we've got a lot of, obviously, superhero-themed activities. There's going to be some books. There's going to be some crafting activities. And it is what it says on the tin. It's going to be all about, like, what is a superhero? What do superheroes do? What does that represent? And what kind of superhero would you be if you had the option? So that's going to be at September the 11th at 1 p.m. And kids are invited to come and hang out, learn about being a superhero, like invent your own superhero identity, design your costume, and then get into some of these activities. Like I said, that we'll trickle those out and they'll be revealed. We will mention more about that in the next podcast.
I was ready to go, and then you said kids, and the fact that this is a children's program, honestly, I feel like I'm being robbed of my chance to be a superhero.
That means that you can be the supervillain.
Oh.
Honestly, yeah, hey.
This is your origin story.
Yes. Supervillain origin story. I wasn't allowed to go to superhero training camp, so I took it on myself
to make a supervillain training camp for adults only. Wait, now we're getting into like codename kids next door territory.
Well, and I mean, this actually does raise a good point, though, because there have been times in the past where we have had programs that people enjoyed, and they were like, hey, so can I come to this? Because it says it's for ages X to Y. I'm like, well, it is kind of for teens, though, or this is a children's program, or, well, this is for adults, so maybe when you're a little older. If we're doing something that you think sounds cool and you want in on it, let us know, and if we can build up enough hype and interest, we will absolutely run a different version of that program or event for other age groups.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if we have a kids movie night, the reason we have an adult movie night, well, I'm sorry, Jessica is very specific about this because the wording is awkward. A movie night for adults, not an adult movie night. Let me specify.
We aren't censored in our materials here at the library, but I don't think we can take it quite that far.
Right. Yeah, so the reason we have a movie night for adults is because children's movie night was so popular, and we had a lot of people coming in being like, so, hey, I brought my little sister, but, I mean, honestly, we watch so many Disney movies at home. Do y'all have, like, could we watch a horror movie? Could we watch an action movie? Could we watch a spy movie? Like, sure, get a bunch of friends together and we'll do that. And it just kind of became a thing. So likewise, anything, that you're interested in, like Anime Club is aimed at teens. That is for teens. It's like 12 or 13 to 17.
Yeah, but if I will happily accept like 10 or 11-year-olds who are really into anime, like that's perfectly fine. I'm just going to draw like a very hard line at 18 and above, just because I want this program to be like a safe environment. Well, I mean, adults aren't mean and scary, but just like a place for teenagers to be teenagers,
Right.
So
I want them to feel comfortable there.
Yeah, I want it to be like a safer space for them to just have fun with people around their age or like still in high school going through stuff that they're going through. Find some friends, all that good stuff. Yeah,
make it relatable, make it easy for people to connect, because there's all kinds of reasons why if there's a big age gap, sometimes you just feel awkward. You just feel uncomfortable because it's hard to relate to people. Or, I mean, we've all been kids. And we all know kids, and teens especially have that thing where sometimes it just feels a little weird when like your dad or your brother who's in college is into the same thing that you're into, and it feels kind of like, the hand over the eyes, sure dad, I know how much you love Dragon Ball too. Sure, yeah, well, let's totally watch Dragon Ball together. And let me that's great. We have at least one patron I can think of who got his mom into watching anime with him, and now they check it out like together, and that's a family thing that they do, and that's really cool. But sometimes when you're a teen, you just want to hang out with other teens and you don't want to hang out with adults, and that's fine.
Except for me, I'm a cool adult, I swear. I know.
No comment.
I know slang. I have TikTok.
I'm on the TikTok.
I don't think you're selling yourself.
So all of that to say, if there's nothing wrong with also having an adult anime club that is for patrons 18 and older.
Yeah.
And then if you're 18, if you're 27, if you're 38, if you're 64, and you like anime and manga, come to that program.
I did have like an older woman. She had to be like around in her 60s or something. Whenever she found out about anime nights back pre-pandemic rather, she was like, "Can I come?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sorry."
No, but like you hate to tell people no, and that's why like we don't want to tell you no. Instead, we want to provide a version of the program that is geared for you, because that also means different things. Like if we have an adult anime club, then we could also watch different things, or we could read different manga than you would in the teen anime club, because if you're going to let kids in who are 10, 11, and 12, and also 17, you have to do stuff that is safe for all of that age range. But like once you turn 18, once you count as an adult, everything is on the table. You don't have to play that game anymore. Then the discussion about comfort zones and boundaries becomes different, because it's like, okay, we have someone here who doesn't want to talk about a certain subject, so let's not talk about that subject, versus we just can't watch this anime because there's a certain level of violence in it, or there's a brief flash of nudity, or they say certain words, or that kind of thing. So if y'all want a different version of a program, whether that is because you're coming to an adult program, you say, hey, could we do a kid's version of this? I think my kid would really love this if we could do a version for children. Or if you're bringing someone to a children's or teens program and you're like, hey, could I come? It's like, bring some friends, let us know you want to do it, and we will absolutely do a teen anime club or like an adults only board game night, or whatever. Absolutely, because we want to know that you want those things. Superhero training camp. If adults wanted to do a superhero training camp, make it known.
Maybe this doesn't have to be my villain origin story.
There you go. Yes, you can help Emery become the superhero that we deserve. Maybe not the one that we need, but the one we deserve.
I think I'm offended.
Or would it be the one that we need but not the one we deserve? Is that better?
I don't know.
After superhero training camp, we don't have any other one-off events that I know of right now that are on the schedule until October. But then in October, starting at October the 13th at 5 p.m., we are having Adult Fall Craft Night. So we will have some autumn themed crafts for
You
folks
better
to
be
come
painting
in.
some pumpkins.
I actually don't know yet if
Like-
the specific craft has been decided, because I don't know how far in advance Jessica has planned.
And I'm not saying we paint on the pumpkins. I'm saying we take a canvas
Paint
and we
some
paint a
paint some
pumpkin.
pumpkins.
That's
Like-
my wedding anniversary, so I feel like basically the decision of what the craft is should be solely up to me.
Hey, well, if you've got a good idea, Jess is going to be like, ooh.
Well, you're right.
So,
That's true.
I mean, because I seriously am
I
not
can't
sure.
remember the last time I had a good idea, but that's fair.
Oh, that's too relatable. The very next day at 6 p.m. we have Fall Fun Night, which is that's an all ages family thing. We do that every year, except for last year, of course.
Right.
And so y'all know what to look forward to there. There's going to be snacks. There's going to be, I think that there's a movie. There's going to be some crafts for all ages. And there's also going to be some other non-craft related activities. Again, because this is so far in advance, we know the date, but I don't know all the specifics of the activities and stuff for the event.
There are usually some kind of games going on.
Yeah.
Some type of prize for the games going on.
Exactly. So we will, as we know more about that, we will be sure to let you all know. And then on October the 28th at 6 p.m., that's when Read for the Record starts. That's a program kind of like summer reading that I think we do pretty much every year.
Yeah.
Don't we?
Mm-hmm. Last year, I can't remember the name of the book. All I know, it was like a purple book or something.
It wasn't the We Need More Purple People book.
No, I was thinking of a different thing. But yeah, it is the We Need
Was
More
that
People.
it? Purple People?
Purple People, yes.
One-eyed, one-horned.
Flying purple people eater.
Yeah.
Purple People eater. I'm getting flashbacks from when I was in speech class back in elementary school.
So Read for the Record is a national library campaign that is meant to increase awareness about how early literacy is very important. The sooner you learn to read, it helps to shape your brain to learn other skills, to learn languages, to just have better comprehension. So you want to learn how to read as early as possible. And so Read for the Record is about raising awareness about that, making that visible, encouraging kids to read high-quality children's books, which of course we provide, and trying to support the work of Jumpstart, which is the program that is behind Read for the Record, trying to support their work with early learners in like underserved communities all across the country. So, of course, this year is a little bit different. So Read for the Record is probably going to be a little bit different as well. I'm not sure if there might be a digital component, but we will keep you informed. And as more details roll out about these programs, we will absolutely be sure to tell you. And now with that out of the way, I think, actually, wait, I almost forgot. My second list was covering part of my first list. Preserving Your Heritage Genealogy Club is also...
Yay!
Yeah, that in-person meetings are coming back for that.
Oh.
So that's going to be the first Thursday starting in September.
And
that's
is
September the 2nd.
Yes.
And that's Cindy's program.
Yeah, that's Cindy's.
And that's going to be from 5:30 to 6:30. So look forward to that. That also, there's a pretty lively Facebook interaction. So if you're not following us on social media, be sure to do that, because Cindy's genealogy posts, they get a lot of traction, and it's because they have some really lively discussions. You all have seen some of the the historical photo Fridays. She'll post these old photos, and people are like, "Oh, that's my grandpa," or "Oh, I remember that building," or "I know who that was." And we've gotten some mysteries solved that way, where there were uncredited folks in photographs, or someone didn't know like where this was taken or whose house this was, and then someone will speak up on Facebook and say, "Hey, my great aunt said that she recognized this person," and so that's really made a difference for like the local historical society, and I think even for many of you who are interested in genealogy. If you're tracking your family tree, sometimes those missing links are filled in by people who participate in Cindy's activities. So if you're interested, definitely take a look at our Facebook for Historical Photo Fridays, but also be sure to come to Preserving Your Heritage as well. It's a program she's really into, And we have a lot of great folks, great speakers who come up to talk, to share their skills in things like genealogy research, which I know is really popular in this area.
Yeah, because like genealogy and local history, like I'm super into it, and I've been like diving deep into like the genealogy room, the newspapers, like Ancestry, all that good stuff. And like I think that one of the reasons why it's so popular is because it's just one of those nice little reminders that there were people before us, yet those people were just like us.
Absolutely.
Like, it's very humanizing to, like, read some of the letters that were, like, back in, like, the early 1900s and stuff, just because, like, for the longest time, I just had, like, these black and white, like, a generic black and white picture in my head of, like, this generic guy or something along the lines of that. But putting a name to a face, putting a story behind an identity, that just, like, creates a whole human experience.
Yeah, it literally brings it to life because these people were alive. They had lives. And so engaging with that reminds you, it gets you out of that mindset that I think our society kind of has. We tend to live very much in the moment. And things like social media and advertising and a lot of the media that we engage encourage that. So we have this attitude of like 50 years ago, nobody was alive then. Who built this house? Oh, I don't know. Somebody back in the 1800s. No, they didn't. That's a lie.
The 1800s were a myth.
The 1800s were a myth. Those didn't happen.
That house just kind of popped into existence.
It bloomed.
It bloomed, as they do, as houses are wont to do.
It's like a pineapple. Like, they just kind of spurt up.
Yeah, they're just kind of there one day. And so it's really been great actually watching your research as you have pulled some of these obituaries and as you have pulled out like these cold case murders, and there's many fascinating things.
Like there was one gentleman who came in and he asked for like this specific name and saying that he was looking online everywhere for this one specific case, and he got zilch. So he was wondering if I had anything, and my records, I'm still updating my records, but right now I have up into like halfway through 1970. And so I'm like, okay, well, do you know what year this took place? And he's like 1969. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect.
Because I just read it. Yeah.
So I found what he was looking for, like a couple of documents. And they had the name of the victim, the name of the shooter, the shooter's weapon, the exact time it happened, like down to the minute, the location. It was just like a gold mine for this guy.
Well, and it was exciting for me just standing there like as a bystander. He came in, he was obviously really interested in this research. It was important to him that he find these answers. And when we told him that someone might be able to help him and that we thought we had the resources, he felt so relieved. And then he got to talking to you and you were like, oh no, I just read through that. And he was just, I've been looking so long and nobody knew anything. And so for me, just watching, it was so great to see the work that you've been doing pay off and to see a patron come in and get to experience that and immediately reap that benefit. One last program to plug.
Is?
Yes, we have Creative Coloring and Coffee is coming back too.
Oh, yay!
Okay. That is an adult relaxation program that's going to be the third Monday of every month. That is coming back September the 20th. And that's going to be from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So come by for some light refreshments. You know, it's just what it says on the tin. We've got some stencils. We have some designs to color, pencils, markers, crayons, things like that are provided. Just come chill out, hang, listen to some music, you know, have some quiet conversation, and just kind of vibe with us here, you know, shake off the stress. It's been a long, stressful year and a half. We are now 19 months into 2020 and we all hate it. So like, just chill with us. And that said, I chilled out with this Stephen King short story. And I have to say, I get where Maximum Overdrive came from.
Listen, I know how much grief we're going to get from all of you for dissing Stephen King like this. But when I tell you that this short story was bad,
like, respect for the man himself, but everyone who writes has written something that wasn't any good or that was just kind of weird. And Trucks is one of those.
And I also want to set the record clear. Just didn't have a chance to read Trucks by Stephen King. However,
right, in like the 2 months that we were planning to do.
I'm sorry.
No time. Megan used Spark Notes for book reports in high school. Pass it on.
No. Oh. Actually, wait. One of my English teachers is dead, so I don't really care. That's the one I used the most Spark Notes on.
Listen, Cliff Notes and Spark Notes are like Wikipedia. People will tell you they're not great sources and they're not great tools, and that's a lie.
But they'll get the job done every time.
They will get the job done every time.
I wouldn't have made it through Fahrenheit 451 without it.
There
so.
you go. Like,
that was an excellent book. Excuse you.
It is not the same.
I really enjoyed it. I just didn't know what the dogs were. I'm like, are these real dogs? Are they mechanical dogs and are just called dogs? I don't know. I'm still very iffy on it.
It's a little symbolic. But yeah, so they're great tools to use, but they are not the same thing as engaging the media. But that's okay. That's okay in this case, because shame on you, but
I have seen the movie like 8 times.
There you go.
So.
And as you pointed out earlier, this actually gives us a good mix, because this way we have someone who has seen the movie and not read the short story.
Right.
And then we have someone who has read the story but not seen the movie.
Yes.
And then we have someone who has done both. So I enjoy Maximum Overdrive, not as a piece of cinema, because it's not good cinema. And Stephen King will be the first person to say that, because he did not enjoy directing it. Which is, as you mentioned before, that's why he's never directed anything else until like this year. But I do enjoy it as an experience in the same way that someone might enjoy, say, The Room or the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like, it's something that you watch with friends so that you can sit on the edge of the couch and, like, you're not watching the movie, you're watching them for their reaction.
Right. Yeah.
So how about we give a brief summary of what Trucks and/or Maximum Overdrive
I don't even know that you guys understand how brief this summary can be, because I think that everyone sitting in this room right now will agree with me when I say that the best summary that we can give is truck domination. What else is there?
Neil Cicierega, yeah, he would be proud of that.
Yeah, he would. My muscles do involuntarily flex.
So like a little more of an expansion on that as far as the movie goes, but I bet that the same thing happened in the short story.
Give your synopsis of the film, and then we'll tell you how it syncs up.
It was like, so there's a meteor or an asteroid or something that is coming into the Earth's orbit, and it had like this radioactive pulse coming from it that like messed up all the technology on Earth. So there's like ATMs that are cursing people out, and like the trucks have like a mind of their own.
What?
And there's like this murderous ice cream truck that kind of scared me the first time I saw it when I was 10, just because it was going around like this very quiet neighborhood because everybody's too afraid to leave their house. It has the ice cream song jingle playing innocently while the truck is all bloodied and stuff, and it's just going around the neighborhood. But anywho, the story itself it centers around like this group of people who are trapped in a gas station, and the trucks have surrounded them, and now these people have to figure out how they can get past these trucks and how they can continue to survive.
Well, the entire beginning of that synopsis was absolutely news to me.
Yeah, as someone who has read the story but not seen the movie.
Yes, because
how is it different?
Because in the story, there is absolutely zero explanation as to why this is happening.
Yeah, like that's one of my favorite parts is that they wonder, they toss over some ideas of like what could have caused this, but nobody knows. It's never answered.
There's never a conclusion.
How does it start in that case?
We don't know.
The story itself.
The story itself starts with the people in the gas station.
Huh.
Yeah, they're already trapped.
Surrounded by trucks that have gotten there in some fashion that is absolutely unbeknownst to anyone. There is never an explanation given for why this is happening. There is never an explanation given as to whether it ever stops. It is just the story of these people trapped in a gas station trying to figure out how to escape from killer trucks.
So what I'm hearing is that explanation was just kind of shoehorned into the movie so that way like the general audience can kind of have some sense of what was going on. And plus they could squeeze that sweet Stephen King's cameo right into the first 2 minutes of it so that way he didn't have to put his face in the movie again.
So having experienced both Trucks and Maximum Overdrive, I think that that's absolutely right. Because as Emery said, like there's no explanation given and there's no resolution. Part of the horror that I think King was going for in the story is the inexplicableness of all of this. They never understand why any of this is happening, and they are getting frustrated. They're tense because they can't figure it out, and since they don't know what's causing it, they don't know how to make it stop. And then when it ends on this note of, is it always going to be this way? How long will it be this way? And it's kind of, it has not a bad classic horror wrap-up note in terms of the main character, through whose eyes you experience the story, talks about how there's a scene where the trucks are running out of fuel and they all kind of rally and they're like, oh, that's it. They can only go so long. So this will only last like a few days at most. And the way that they're all constantly running, like maybe only a few hours.
Right.
And then the trucks start like honking their horns in Morse code and ordering them to fill up the tanks to come out and fuel them up. And so he goes out and he does this, and then and like they talk about it, they take a vote, they decide not to fuel them up, and then they get attacked. And so to stop the attacks, they break down and they're like, okay, we'll put gas in you.
Because of course there are still some trucks that are not running out of fuel. So either they stay inside the gas station and get absolutely plowed down.
Or starve to death.
Or whatever, or they go fuel these trucks. And so essentially, by the way, we are spoiling every part of this story, but Bad Book Club consists of things that we read so you don't have to.
Yeah.
So the ending of this story essentially concludes in, are we going to be standing at gasoline pumps fueling these monsters for the rest of time?
Yeah, like are we just their slaves now? And the protagonist kind of, he says to himself, or he wonders, the thing about them is that they can't reproduce. So in 40 or 50 or 60 years, even the best vehicle will succumb to the elements. It'll break down and turn into a crumbling rust bucket because like you just can't maintain the machine parts for that long. Maybe that will stop them. And then he remembers the production lines in cities like Detroit, and he says, like, will some of us be gas station slaves and others will be trapped at the assembly lines, and when one of us collapses we're just filled in by another, constantly building more trucks. And then like a plane goes overhead and it ends on this note of like, I wish I could pretend there were people inside them.
Right, like that's literally the last line of the story.
Yeah.
Is that this guy is thinking to himself, like, I wish that I thought there was someone piloting this plane.
Yeah.
Like,
so it ends on like there might be hope, but
who
it's
knows?
kind of given to you to then immediately take it at least halfway back away again.
right.
Which is like, that's a great horror technique. It just is ludicrous against the concept, because yes, there is a horror to, we live in a world full of technology. And a lot of people are already scared of it. So what would happen if our technology woke up one day and was really mad at us for some reason we didn't understand, and we couldn't stop it or turn it back off again?
And I think as somebody who has not seen Maximum Overdrive, just hearing conceptually what the movie encompasses, it sounds like it would be more effective in the element of inducing horror, because you said that it's like all of technology.
Yeah.
Right?
Like every single thing. Like there's a waitress in like this gas station or diner or whatever. There is like an electronic cutter, like an electronic meat cutter that wasn't plugged in, just kind of chilling on the counter, and her hand happened to be there. And then it came on and it cut her hand. And she's like, whoa, what happened?
Because it wasn't even plugged in.
Yeah, and this was like before they were all trapped. And so... Oh, and there was also this one scene where this guy was like in an arcade, and the arcade just kind of blows him up or something.
Yeah, it's like he's playing the arcade game, and while he has hold of it, it shocks him to death or something like that, I think.
See, this feels a lot more like the general situational horror feel that Stephen King's full-length novels have. And of course, you can't take the contents of a short story and turn them into the length of a film. Like, it had to be expanded on. Yeah. There had to be elements that were added to it. But as a concept in and of itself, this is why Trucks is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because nothing else is affected. None of the rest of the technology in the world is affected.
It's just vehicles.
It's just the trucks.
It's just vehicles.
So funny.
And that's why, like, it's not without potential, obviously.
Of course.
That's what makes this qualify for Bad Book Club, is because it's not a bad idea.
Oh, I'll read it again.
Yeah,
right.
It's not a bad concept. But what pulled me forward when I read the short story, because this is the other qualification, is like Stephen King wrote this seriously, and he had a good idea. But what pulled me forward through it, and the reason I couldn't put the short story down until I finished it, was because I was just like, this is so ridiculous. This is not, why is like the microwave and the electric stove not attacking them? Why is it just randomly trucks?
Exactly.
And every time one of the characters wonders the same thing, and then everybody goes, gee, I don't know, or just no answer is given.
There's nothing.
And it gets funnier and funnier and funnier, because like you mentioned at the beginning of this that there was like a meteor.
Yeah.
So that was inserted into the movie to give an explanation, because the film is going to be engaged differently and by a different audience than the short story. So they had to give you something to latch onto to understand why this was happening, I guess, was the feeling. And they also have to have a resolution for it, which is why Maximum Overdrive, unlike Trucks, does not end ambiguously. Ambiguously. It ends like with a conclusion where all of the technology kind of shuts back off again, because the meteor leaves Earth's orbit or whatever, and everyone comes out and wipes the sweat off their forehead and goes, hope that doesn't happen again. That was terrible.
And that just kind of takes away from the Stephen King horror of jumping right into it. Like, what are we doing? What's happening? Because they don't know there's a meteor going on. That is dramatic irony that the viewer knows. However, as a person who's terrified of, who has like, so like I have a lot of phobias, and definitely one of them is inanimate objects moving when they're not supposed to. So just the whole concept itself of waking up one morning, going to a gas station, and suddenly I'm surrounded by a bunch of murderous trucks with no drivers, that's a true nightmare, and I have no explanation for it. As nobody would, unless if you actually saw the meteor, and honestly, who would?
Yeah.
Because only nerds look through telescopes.
Which we do circulate, by the way.
We do, yeah.
But yeah,
nice plug-in.
So that means that, like, H.P. Lovecraft obviously was not a great guy, but he was a great author. Yeah. And he was correct when he said, not word for word, but when he said, like, the less that you show the monster, the scarier it will be. Right. Because people, like, what you make up in your own head is worse than anything that I could make up for you. And so when you show someone where the monster comes from or why the supernatural thing is happening, then if it's explicable, it suddenly becomes less scary, because if you have an explanation, you understand it. And if you understand it, you can fight back. You can stop it. This magical meteor's radiation brought all of the trucks to life, and they hate us for some reason. It's like, well, maybe if we shoot down the meteor or block the radiation, it'll be fine.
Right.
Which I think really is interesting in I mean, if you look at this situation in particular, if you look at this short story, Trucks, versus the movie, Maximum Overdrive, if you strip the hilarity, if you take away that aspect and really just look at it from the standpoint of, like, Megan was talking earlier, right, about the dramatic irony of the audience knows about this meteor, but the characters don't. Mm-hmm. I think it's really interesting to look at the contrast in the book to movie adaptation here of, if you've seen it and you've read it, the movie offers you an explanation. But when you read the book, you're living within the world of the characters. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
There is no explanation for it. Whereas when you're consuming media that is in the form of a film, you're usually going to be offered that explanation.
Yeah, it's like truly looking at a picture. You're looking from the outside in.
Exactly.
Yeah, and in the short story, one of the things that King definitely does well is he shows you these experiences and these events through the eyes of a protagonist. So it's written in first person. Because we experience these events through that protagonist, we only know what the protagonist knows, and he wonders the same things that we do. And that is a great device to build atmospheric horror, except that in this movie, the concept and the execution are so ridiculous that I can't vibe with the protagonist.
Right.
Because I have different thoughts than he does. And I also realize we did not say this at the beginning, and we should. And I apologize. We're still finding our footing with this whole podcast thing. But Trucks was first published in the June 1973 issue of Cavalier magazine. And of course, later on in like 1978, it was collected in his first short story anthology collection. I think it was.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was, but it's Night Shift is the...
Yeah, it was called Night Shift. I don't know if it was his first anthology, but it was an early one. So that means this happened going on 40 years ago.
Right.
So
if that was the case, then that would be like right in the middle of the Cold War, when everyone was super afraid of technology to begin with.
Yeah, so like that might be where he got the idea, and those were the fears that he was preying on. And you have to consider, whenever you're looking at any piece of media, that it was written through the lens of someone who was around at that time experiencing whatever that situation was, and you are looking at it through your lens of right now and what your experiences and perspectives are. So that's part of, I think, why this has it hasn't aged well.
Right.
Like, it probably was a lot scarier and more poignant and a lot more hard-hitting in 1973.
Exactly. There are so many people, like my parents' age, right, that have told me how much, I don't know, like the original Poltergeist terrified them.
Yes.
And so for people within like our generation, the original Poltergeist is laughable.
Yeah. Like this is like how my mother told me that when she first saw the original Exorcist movie.
Yeah, I was going to bring up The Exorcist.
With Linda Blair, The Exorcist, and she saw it at a drive-in theater, and she said her and her friends were terrified, and to the point where she couldn't stand to have the original book that the movie was adapted from in her house.
Wow.
Like, she had a copy, apparently, that someone had given her, that she had come across or whatever, and she like took it out and threw it away because it scared her so bad. But even she, as she has aged, she said, well, now you look at how great practical effects and CGI have gotten, and you look at how people have adapted all different kinds of ways to get into your head and prey on new and different fears in various ways. And she said, I know how scared it made, but I look back now and I can watch that movie, and it's funny how scared I was of it. Like, it just hasn't aged well.
Right.
And so now it's hilarious to watch Linda Blair's fake head spin around and her to vomit pea soup everywhere. And she's like, that's no longer frightening to me. But at the time it was new.
It was revolutionary.
Exactly. And
it's exactly like the Blair Witch Project.
Oh, yes.
Because if the Blair Witch Project were to be made today, I know there's remakes, but I'm talking about the original Blair Witch.
It would be the equivalent of that new Slender Man movie that came out a year before last.
It wouldn't have been as culturally impactful. But since it was made in the late 90s, when the internet was just a thing, and people weren't for sure if this was real or if this was fake, that is why people were terrified of this, because a nice chunk of the population thought this was real.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they utilized the not so comfortable internet at that time as well. They had the shaky cam, which was hardly ever seen before.
Yeah.
Like, I know it wasn't the first, but it was probably the first mainstream one.
Yeah. It built off of the same ideas that films before it, like Cannibal Holocaust, which I think may have been the very first
Holocaust was
found
the very
footage.
first found footage.
Which in turn drew inspiration from things like War of the Worlds, which people also thought was real. Like, you're reporting on something as though it is real and presenting it as though it's real, and that gives it a different feel. And so when something happens for the first time, you can only react to it like it's new. You can't be jaded about it. You can't respond to it like you've seen it a million times because no one's ever seen it. And even, in the example that I gave, like, Mom said that at the time, no one had done anything like that. The Exorcist was the first movie of its type. So everything is a product of the time in which it is created. And so Trucks in 1973, I'm sure, was probably very scary to read because of the Cold War, because of technology, because of the environment and the atmosphere and the tension that you had to prey on. Like, that was a resource. The way that people felt in their homes and going out of a day, you could use that as a horror writer and play that string. But now, reading it in 2021, it's like, oh my God, climb on a roof, you silly people.
Like, what is wrong with you?
What is going on? And it's like, oh, but they brought a bulldozer. It's going to knock the building down. It's like, what building?
Can't withstand a bulldozer
running. Like, bulldozers don't go very fast.
However, those little kids in the T-ball tournament, they didn't stand a chance against that.
Okay. So Trucks was published in 1973. When did Maximum Overdrive come out?
I think it was like 82 or something. 78.
It came out in 1986.
Okay, so there was a good little chunk of time there that they spent considering the fact that nobody was going to watch a film where there was zero explanation for what was happening.
Yeah, there were 13 years between the original release of the short story and the adaptation of the film, and that means that there was 10 years, I think, between, eight years between the anthology collection.
Right.
So that means it was published again for like a mass audience to consume. People who had not been subscribers to Cavalier magazine. Now it was just on library shelves. It was in bookstores. Everyone could read it. So 5 years later, it had a resurgence where a lot of people were reading it for the first time that weren't exposed to the original publication. And then 8 years later, someone said, wouldn't this make a great movie? And I think it might have been Stephen King, and he's regretted it ever since.
I will give them two pieces of credit. For one, that ice cream truck was terrifying.
That's fair. That's fair. The quiet neighborhood imagery.
I'm going to have to go home and watch this.
For two, it is one of the rare daylight horror movies I have seen. Because everything was shot when the sun was out. There was no darkness, no anything like that. It was just a normal day, and these trucks go berserk. And I kind of appreciated that, as bad as it made all the effects look in the process.
There are one or two scenes that take place at night, which may have been shot through a dark filter, but the overwhelming majority of this film occurs in broad daylight. And that's great, because that's something Stephen King also does well, where things like Children of the Corn or The Stand, a lot of it takes place during the daylight.
And even Pet Sematary, like a lot of the bigger, like, shock factor moments happen in the daylight.
Because, I mean, like, as a species, we're largely scared of the dark. And we have been taught to be scared of the dark because we don't know that we're the scariest thing in it.
Right.
We get told that there's something else in there that's scarier than we are. And so it's very easy to use that as an element of horror, because you can hide things in darkness that you can't hide during the day. So credit where it's due. One of my favorite things about Stephen King that you just touched on is that he is one of those masters of horror who can make things scary in broad daylight, and to do that, you have to create and maintain an atmosphere of tension that does not require those subtle scares and the hiding place of the dark to put things in so they can jump out at you. He doesn't use a lot of jump scares. He uses atmospheric horror, and that kind of psychological horror does not require it to happen at night. It can happen when the sun is right overhead, and it's like, that's the horror in and of itself. It's nothing can help you. This is happening in broad daylight. This is just a thing that's going on, and you're powerless to stop it or whatever.
So basically, Stephen King is just here to tell us to be paranoid all the time.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and paranoia
and
is a powerful.
Stephen King for making a movie that I can actually see instead of
Yes.
And with that being said, I want to reiterate that this short story has not aged well. That is the whole point of why we picked it and why we were reading it. I think that's the best way to describe it. I think that in the 40 years or so, what is it, 83, 93, 2003, 13. Oh my gosh, it's almost 50 years?
Almost 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Almost 50 years ago, okay. So, it's not aged well, and therefore I can't judge it by the impact that it had then, only by the impact that it has now. And the impact that it has now is that was a hysterical read. I'm glad that I read it. It does make me want to go back and watch Maximum Overdrive again with new people who have not seen it.
Yes.
So that we can laugh at it. I recommend that you do the same, because we do have Night Shift on the shelf. We do have Maximum Overdrive on the shelf, and you can check those out. And we have a lot of other Stephen King novels and anthologies, which are all wonderful. I definitely recommend them. You mentioned the Dark Tower series earlier. Of course, The Stand is a classic and very, very relevant right now with the plague imagery and stuff. I know that even affected the filming of the new miniseries. So there is something in Stephen King for everybody, whether it is Misery, Needless Things, that's probably or Needful Things, Needless Things. Needful Things, which is probably my favorite, and also some other stuff that is equally maybe as silly, like the Tommy Knockers, which maybe is the subject of a future Bad Book Club.
Maybe.
But for this Bad Book Club, I think we should wrap it up with we need some way to judge these books. How would we need a rating system. How would you rate Trucks?
Oh man, I mean, this can't be a numerical rating system, right?
No.
Because we're not judging them.
We could do my classic toilet rating system.
I don't.
Let's hear it. What's your toilet rating
maybe.
system?
Oh, okay, so the toilet rating system is S tier is a clean, porcelain, pristine toilet. And then F tier is straight up porta potty in an earthquake.
Okay. All right. So my question, I think, is what exactly is it that we are rating? Because are we giving this a rating of bad to worst? Are we giving this a rating of how likely we are to recommend that people actually read it?
This is a library podcast, so the point of this segment is for us to have read something that we see as objectively not great writing. But of course, our criteria for everybody who didn't listen to the first episode, maybe missed the first one, was there needs to have been a serious attempt. It was not written to be funny on purpose, but we laughed at it. And even though we don't think it's very good, we enjoyed reading the whole thing. So I think from a librarian standpoint, we should rate this on how on the toilet scale, where are we with, where would you recommend to other people? You should definitely read this. You should experience this. You should give this a try.
I think that I am giving this one a solid grandma's toilet.
Same here. Grandma's toilet.
I think so too. I'm going to say a grandma's toilet because I'm comfortable with it. It's used. It's a little out of date. And it smells a little funny. It is definitely a product of its time, of a very specific time. But I also feel comfortable handling it and being around it because I know where it came from and where it's been.
It's not dirty.
And
it's not strangely wet.
Right, and it's not it's not disrespecting me back with its existence.
Exactly.
By being there. I'm okay with this toilet.
So anyone who would use their grandmother's toilet should check out Trucks.
Or the Night Shift anthology, which includes it, and also Maximum Overdrive, the terrible film adaptation that I also really enjoy, and which I would also give a solid Grandma's Toilet. So with that, thank you very much for listening to our second episode of our podcast. I hope you come back for the third. Remember, it's new episodes every first and third Saturday of the month. And I am Morgan.
I'm Megan.
I'm Emery.
And this has been The Reading Room, brought to you by your Rowan County Public Library.